see her. And that I felt very close to, because if I encountered a random stranger on the street who told me I was pretty 2 times, I would also just follow them around and never leave them alone. Repeatedly ask them that question again. And the one thing that really got me was the 2 correct answers that get you off and you don't have to continue the interaction in any way is, if you say, if you tell her she's average looking, she leaves you alone. It's like, yeah, you're alright. She's like, you know what? I'll take it if she doesn't hurt you. And the other way, and this was when I was like, this is me as a cryptid, is you can bribe her with money or hard candy.
Oh my god.
If you encounter me on the street and I ask you if I'm pretty, if you say no, I'm going to kill you because I'm offended. And if you say yes, I'm going to kill you because you're lying. But if you offer me money or hard candy, I'll probably leave you alone.
That's the big mood.
That's the big mood. And the other thing that I found really, really interesting about this story was that this legend, apparently it existed before, but it got popularized in the 70s. And it was so popular that people in Japan actually, parents and teachers, started escorting their children to and from school because there were so many reported sightings of the slit-mouthed woman. So, this is one of the only cryptids I can think of where, there was actual action taken by the people, and it wasn't just, dismissed entirely. And I think that's what separates the slit-mouthed woman in my mind between being just a straight up urban legend is being a cryptid, is that level of believability.
Oh yeah.
Is that people said you know what? I'm not going to take the chance, and started walking with their kids to and from school. And so I thought that was really cool.
That is very cool. I didn't know about that part.
Yeah. And so that is my number 3. And so, do I believe the slit-mouthed woman existed? I don't want to risk saying no, so I'm going to go,
And Cameron survives.
Cameron survives.
You made it. You did it. You did it. Congratulations.
Okay, so my number 2 pick is the Jersey Devil.
Ooh.
And I love the Jersey Devil.
Very interesting.
So the reason why the Loch Ness Monster stopped being a big deal with me is that I discovered the Jersey Devil and cared much more about that. The Jersey Devil is also one of the more ridiculous cryptids, and it is apparently only really popular in New Jersey. So the story of it is that there was a woman named Mrs. Leeds who lived in the Pine Barrens, I believe, which is this enormous fucking pine forest in New Jersey that apparently is one of the few places left in America where you could get lost and die. It's just that big and that dense, is that you could wander in there and then not find your way back out. And so she lived in there, and she was poor, and she kept having babies. And when she got pregnant the 13th time,
spooky number 13.
Spooky number 13. She said her curse was to let it be the devil because she was so fucking done with these kids. And the baby was born, and at first it was normal, and then because she talked shit, it turned into a spooky demon baby and flew out the chimney into the Pine Barrens, where it remains to this day. Now, the Jersey Devil does not look like your average description of a demon. It's not like a horned humanoid thing. It's got bat wings and long, stork-like legs that come to hooves.
Long touching legs.
Yeah, it's got long touching legs that come to hooves at the bottom, and it's got a horse head. And, it's just a fucking weird-looking...
That's, more of a traditional demon.
Yeah, it really is. It's a weird-looking demon. If you, look up what drawings that have been done by eyewitness accounts have drawn the Jersey Devil to look like, that's what it looks like. And there have been a surprising number of sightings of the Jersey Devil. Like,
throughout a long time,
yeah,
because
long,
we're talking
long
like
periods of time.
1800s.
Yeah, if you look it up, there will be like periods where there will be a ton of sightings in a row and then nothing for a time, and then there'll be a bunch more sightings. And there's stuff where like the people woke up and there was like hoof prints all over their roofs and shit like that, and they didn't know how that happened, and it wasn't anywhere near Christmas, so it couldn't have been Santa Claus.
Or Krampus.
Or Krampus, exactly. And like all sorts of things. People say that it makes a noise like the old like quitting time whistle at a factory. One of my favorite stories was a woman in New Jersey came outside because she heard her dog in distress, and her dog was fighting the Jersey Devil in her backyard, and she grabbed a broom and chased it off and saved her dog. And like, these stories are so strange and so like unrelated to each other almost, that it almost gives it credence in my mind.
Yeah.
Like it's not consistent. It's not like how Bigfoot, everyone's like, oh yeah, I saw Bigfoot. He was in the woods and he was big and brown and spooky looking. Like, it's not like that. This is like, the description of the monster stays relatively similar, but like what it does or like how it encounters the people is so wildly different that like it feels like they would be more similar if they were all just trying to do it for attention.
Exactly. And it makes it almost seem like it's a species of something in there, because it's acting similarly to individual versions of, individuals that have different attitudes towards things throughout. And I this is definitely one of the ones I know least about.
Yeah.
But I do find the Jersey Devil very interesting on that end, and I do give a lot of credit to its lengthy history of existing.
Yeah.
And I think that gives it a lot of credence, and like Cameron said, and I think it's really cool, and I think it deserves to be on that list.
I agree. And so the Jersey Devil's my number 2. I do legitimately believe it's out there. I wouldn't get anywhere near the fucking Pine Bear. Like, I don't want to mess with it. If it's there, it's creepy looking, and I don't want to see it in person. It's
Amen
cool.
to that.
Like, when I was a kid, I was like, I'm going to find the Loch Ness Monster. And then I was like a teenager, and I was like, wow, the Jersey Devil's probably real, and it can stay way the fuck over there. I don't want to see it. And so finally, my number 1 is a cryptid that recently seems to be getting a little bit more attention, but I still think is like woefully under talked about, considering the fact that it's one of the only ones that we have legitimate empirical evidence that it did happen. We just don't know much about what exactly it was, which is the Beast of Gévaudan.
I've heard of that one. I don't really know a lot about that one.
So what it is it's this in France in the 1800s, there was this, I don't know, town or province or something, which was Gévaudan, and for a period of years, they were attacked repeatedly by this enormous wolf creature that would, like, it would kill women and children during the middle of the day in public places. It was, like, killing livestock. This thing was on a rampage, just, like, destroying people, and it couldn't be stopped. They would hunt it. They would chase it into the woods and shoot it, and it would come back. Like, they would see them shooting it. They'd be like, we definitely hit it. It just ran off to die, and then the next day, it would be back killing somebody. And there's some crazy stories about encounters with this thing. Like, there was this woman who was tending her cattle, and the beast attacked her in her field, and she was fighting it off with a spear, and then her cattle came and attacked it, and, like, the cattle managed to finally chase it off. But, like, all the descriptions of it say it was bigger than a wolf, and its fur was, like, reddish-brown almost. And there's just all these descriptions of it that, like, they use wolf as the, go-to, like, descriptor of what kind of animal it was, but it seems more like it was just some form of, like, a canine-type animal. And so there's lots and lots of... So we know that it exists, and we know because there's all newspaper articles and stuff from the time describing the attacks, and just sort of, like, the rampage this thing went on, and the people in the town, like, hiring big game hunters to come and hunt this thing for them and try to kill it. And so finally, there was a guy I don't remember his name, who went after it with a silver bullet and managed to finally actually kill it. And the beast was taxidermied and displayed in the palace of like the king at the time for people to come and see and confirm that it had been killed. And apparently they taxidermied it wrong in some way, so the body actually did start to rot after a while, and then they buried it. And people have never been able to find where it was buried so that they can try to find like bones or something to try to discover what it actually was, because to this day we don't know what the animal was or why it was there or how it could resist being shot and all these things, and how it was so powerful and why it acted so strangely. And like, it was too long of a period of time for it to just be a rabid animal, and all the descriptions of it were too consistent and too weird to be multiple, just like different wolves or something like that. And so there's all sorts of theories as to what it could have been. My personal theory is that it could have been multiple hyenas, because I did research on this when I was in high school, and apparently striped hyenas, they perform, like, they do a lot of the things that people were describing the beast of doing. Like, in the Middle East, striped hyenas are known for attacking children in public places because they see children as, like, easy prey, and they'll straight up like run into the marketplace and start attacking a child in front of all these people and have to be like chased off.
Jesus.
And so that was something that was similar. I remember I printed out a picture of a striped hyena, and I was carrying it around for a while and showing it to people and asking them what animal it was, and like the majority of the people said it was a wolf. Not because it looks particularly like a wolf,
because that's what their frame of reference was.
That's what their frame of reference was. And so I believe that it's possible that a breeding pair of striped hyenas might have been brought into France for some reason or another, maybe to be like kept as pets by some wealthy aristocrat or something like that. And then when they were difficult to contain, they managed to escape or were released and then bred. And for a brief period of time, there was a pack of striped hyenas living in the woods around this province of France, and they weren't surviving being shot. They were being shot and dying,
but
like,
there were others
back into their pits and dying, and then there were others that were coming out repeatedly because it was a whole pack, and eventually they just managed to kill them all. And so that's my theory about what this could have been.
That's actually a really good theory, and I think that's entirely possible that it could have been that.
Yeah.
Just from one of the times. That is very interesting.
Yeah.
I now that you've said it, I'd never heard of that before. So that's very cool.
Yeah, that's my favorite cryptid of all time, just because like we know it existed, we just don't know what it was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My top 5 list.
Yes.
Is going to end up being very similar. Didn't anticipate that.
Great minds.
But so also just for background, when me and Cameron are planning these episodes, we purposely do not talk about a lot of what we're going to say beforehand, because the whole format of this is supposed to be that it's just us having a conversation about the subject. So all we know going in is what we're going to talk about. We know that each of us have brought in a top 5 list related to the topic. We do not know what the list is for each person.
So there, very often what you're going to find is that me and Jake have similar lists, probably, because we agree on a lot of things.
It's true. And I feel like that will change over time as we delve into more topics.
Yeah.
It's just, now that we're just starting out, of course, we're going to pick the things that we like a lot.
Right.
And in those cases, of course, me and Cameron are going to have similar thoughts because we're friends and we have similar tastes.
Right.
I don't think that will take away from anything.
No, I don't think so either.
We'll still argue. Yes, exactly. But mine is different enough.
Okay.
Actually, it is more different than I thought. All right. So,
all right, what do you got?
Reading it. So my number 5 is I'm going to go ahead and take that bent meaning that Cameron has brought and just snap it. My number 5 is Slenderman.
Yes.
So I was really at mid-college and also
early college.
It was early college, yeah, I guess so. I was really, 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 really into Marble Hornets. So I was super into that particular version of Slenderman. Now, Slenderman, in general, the reason I find him... First, I should explain Sunderman because
just in case.
So Sunderman is another creepypasta thing. We had already mentioned Seed Eater. Sunderman is a creature from creepypasta as well. He originates from a contest to create really spooky pictures, and the original pictures are of these very odd old group shots of like children or young adults, and they have this faceless, pale skinned man who's extremely tall, and he's in a suit, and he has long arms and long legs, but like no real hands, and sometimes he has tentacles on his back.
Did he have tentacles in the original pictures?
He did not in the original. His one of them he did, one of them he didn't.
Okay.
So like it was very clear that like essentially when you look at all the things, it's assorted that he's like some entity who makes his way into. He targets people and he focuses on them, and he kind of just hunts them over long periods of time. And he dresses like that, and it's really his body, and he like looks like something that can just vaguely blend in enough that it won't cause too much a distraction, but you can still see him. And so there's a lot of questions about what he does is always changing. It's kind of like the thing is that he does what you want him to do in your narrative of him.
Yeah, his mythology has grown a lot from the beginning to where he was like originally he was an eater of children as well, and then he like
he put their organs, pierced them, put them on trees. He would put their organs in bags. Yeah. That was one of them.
And then eventually we got to where we are now, where it's much
and I like the modern version. I think where he rested was the best version of him. Mm-hmm. So where he is now is what I'm saying, where he hunts you down slowly. And the thing that I liked Marble Hornets was at the time that came out, which was like the early 2010s, late 2000s. It was all the rage to do like these. I think they're called ARGs.
Yep, alternate reality games.
Yeah, exactly. Alternate reality games. And so essentially what it was, the craze was that people would make videos. Essentially, it was like the Blair Witch Project movie, where it was like found footage, and it would be people doing something, and then something strange would happen, and then the story would focus on the strange thing, and it would eventually be like a horror movie.
It was like real-time Blair Witch Project.
Oh, yeah. So that's the other part, too, which I was just about to mention, is that, so these posts would come out in like, they would be happening, and like this person would be having this adventure in real time. Every day you'd go and see what the new post was, and you would just go back, and instead of having like, oh, ring the bell and I'll do my new video next time, it was like, I gotta find out to see what happened to this dude. And it was crazy big, and Marble Hornets was one of them, and it focused on Slenderman. And
when you first started following it, it felt very real.
Yeah, it felt very real. Throughout the whole thing, it felt pretty good. And the ending obviously became more like a film as they revealed him. But at the very beginning, essentially what the plot is this guy named Jay, whose real name is Troy, who's a really great film dude. And if you find his Troy Has a Camera is his not Marble Hornets account on YouTube. He has great stuff on there. And him and his friend Alex is the other really big film guy. I forget his real name. They're both really good at film, and I think this was originally a student film project that they were doing, and then it became like a passion project of theirs. What it was that Jay goes to his friend, and his friend is his friend is Alex, and Alex is getting rid of all these videotapes that from his camera from film school. And Jay goes, why are you throwing away all those tapes? Like, you love film, why are you doing this?
He spent a long time working on this film.
Yeah, and it was a student, in the context of the story, there was a student film called Marble Hornets, and that's what all these things were titled under, and he was going to throw them away. And Jay was like, why would you do that? That's all your hard work. And he was like, no, it wasn't good. I don't want it. I don't want these tapes. I'm going to burn them. And that was the big thing that kind of weirded Jay out, was that he was like, I'm going to burn them, which is like odd for like a film person to do.
Right.
So Jay takes the tapes, because he's like, I don't want to, as another film student, I don't want you to destroy these, because what if there's something useful on here? I'm going to go through the tapes. Maybe there's some good B footage I can keep, and maybe there's something in here. Maybe I can even salvage the film if it's like complete enough. And then he starts watching the tapes, and like they seem mundane at first, and then like slowly, surely, small things start appearing, and you see him, and that's like the first weird one is you see Slender Man walk across the window, and so that starts the whole thing, and then bit by bit he starts looking into Slender Man. He meets all the other people that are involved in the film. One of the guys is being hunted by Slender Man. They all start getting hunted by Slender Man, and it just goes on like that.
Yeah, and you have to understand that ARGs weren't big yet. Like,
yes,
nowadays people do this stuff all the time.
Yes,
at the time this was the first big one that like people knew about, and so nobody really knew what was going on. Like,
exactly.
This was weird.
It was huge. It was a big deal, and I was super into it. To this day, disclaimer, to this day I've never finished it. I've gotten through most of it. But I keep, every time I get near the end, whoever I'm watching it with ends up stopping watching it with me. And I like to watch it because, I'll be honest, I get scared. right. But yeah, so I've talked about Slender Man enough. He's interesting. He is made up for that contest, so he counts. But here's the thing: in modern context now, there has been since he has come to be, people have then begin to say that they've actually seen him, including me, which. So, the first night I ever watched Marble Hornets, it was one of the earlier episodes, and it was one of the first ones where we get a full body shot of Slender Man, and like a real hard interaction between Jay and Slender Man. And I started driving home, and I live off in the woods a little bit. It's not like in the woods, but there's a lot of woods in the area, and that's the big thing is Slender Man's in the woods a lot. Yeah. And so I started driving, and I see the woods, and I go, Slender Man, he's in the woods. I'm all spooked out. And then at the end of my headlights, on the very edge of it, I see a suited leg with like a suit pants and